September 23, 2009, Stockholm, and it's 5 a.m. in the morning. The city is still asleep. The streets are quiet, and in the Västberga district, a nondescript industrial pocket in southern Stockholm, the overnight team at the G4S cash depot is doing what they do every night, counting money. G4S, for context, is one of the largest private security companies in the world. This particular facility was a cash handling center, the kind of place banks and businesses send their money to be sorted, counted, and redistributed. On any given night, tens of millions of Swedish kroner moved through those walls. Now, here's a detail that criminologists find endlessly fascinating about this case. The building had a design flaw that the architects almost certainly never considered a vulnerability. The cash sorting floor, where the money physically was, sat on the 6th floor, directly below a glass pyramid skylight. Think about that. Tens of millions in cash right beneath a glass ceiling in a building with a flat, accessible roof. Someone noticed. Meanwhile, roughly 25 miles away from the depot, a man named Nemanja Alik had been sitting in the dark near Stockholm's police helicopter hangar since before 3 a.m. watching, waiting, prepaid phone in hand. At 2:55 a.m., the police helicopters land for the night. He makes a call. The operation is go. What happened over the next 2 hours is, from a purely analytical standpoint, one of the most choreographed criminal operations ever executed on European soil. 14 disposable phones, a closed communication loop, at least a dozen people, each with a specific role, checking in at specific times like an orchestra tuning up before a performance. Let me walk you through it. While Nemanja watches the hangar, someone else is placing caltrops, those medieval-looking spiked devices, across every major road leading to the Västberga facility. It doesn't matter how fast the police drive, they're not getting through on 4 wheels. At around 4:30 a.m., Nemanja makes his final move at the hangar. He places 2 metal boxes, fake bombs deliberately labeled, at the entrance doors and on the tarmac. Not real explosives, but real enough to trigger a full bomb squad response. No one is getting near those police helicopters for hours. And then, almost simultaneously, a man named Alexander Eriksson walks into the Mellingeholm airfield in Norrtälje, a small airfield about 40 miles north of Stockholm, and steals a Bell 206 Jet Ranger helicopter. He flies it to a prearranged meeting point. The crew loads up, ladders zip-tied to the skids, sledgehammers, saws, small explosive charges, and, in a detail I always find quietly brilliant, a handful of empty Coke cans. We'll come back to those. At 5:15 a.m., the Bell 206 appears over Västberga. Inside the building, a shift supervisor named Oskar Lindgren later recalled hearing the windows begin to rattle. He assumed it was the usual noise from trucks idling outside, so common that the team joked about it. Someone even made a crack, apparently, about how it sounded like someone was coming to rob them through the skylight. 30 seconds later, the skylight came in. 3 or 4 men rappelled down into the building on those zip-tied ladders, sledgehammers already in hand. Small explosive charges were placed at the security doors, not to harm anyone, but to blow the locks. The concussive blasts echoed through the building. The 21 members of staff did exactly what they were trained to do. They ran to the vault and locked themselves in. No one was hurt, not a single person. The robbers, who had clearly studied the building's layout, moved through the facility with no hesitation. They knew where the money was. They didn't need to search. They loaded bags, tens of millions of kroner in printed cash. The bags go up through the skylight on a rope. The helicopter hovering patiently above takes them aboard. Down on the ground, the first police patrol arrives at 5:25 a.m. They can see the helicopter. They have a visual. They are ordered to stand down because the robbers are reported to be armed with submachine guns and the risk to civilians is too high. At 5:35 a.m., 20 minutes after it all began, the Bell 206 lifts off the roof with the crew and the cash and disappears into the morning sky. The police watch it go. And those Coke cans? The robbers stuffed them with nitrate crystals and left them inside the building. Another decoy bomb, just to make sure no one came in after them while they loaded up. Even the exit had a layer. The helicopter landed at a field in Arninge, 20 kilometers north of Stockholm, and was abandoned in the woods. The crew split into waiting vehicles and vanished. For a few hours, it looked like one of the cleanest getaways in European criminal history. Then someone bled. One of the men had cut his hand on the ladder during the descent into the building. It was a small wound, probably didn't even register in the moment. But DNA doesn't care about adrenaline, and Swedish forensics recovered a clean sample from that ladder. It matched an Iraqi-born Swedish national named Safa Kadum. From there, the investigation moved fast. Phone records revealed the network of 14 prepaid phones. CCTV was analyzed, and then a tip came in from, of all places, the US Drug Enforcement Administration, who had been tracking Kadum's movements independently. He was lying low in the Dominican Republic. Swedish police chartered a private plane and flew out to get him. The pilot, Alexander Eriksson, was picked up at an airport in the Canary Islands by a Swedish Special Operations Unit. And the suspected mastermind, the man named Goran Bojovic, a construction firm owner with ties to the Balkans criminal world, was arrested in his Stockholm apartment just 4 days after the heist, a bag of cash sitting nearby. He'd been driving his new BMW around the city like nothing had happened. By 2010, 7 men had been convicted. Sentences ranged from 1 to 8 years. Now, here's where I come back to the detail I mentioned at the very beginning. The Swedish police had been warned. A month before the heist, Serbian intelligence passed on a tip to Swedish authorities. A man had been attempting to recruit a Serbian helicopter pilot for a robbery in Sweden. The suspect was believed to be connected to BIA Red Berets, Serbia's former secret police. Swedish authorities took it seriously. They set up surveillance. They identified a probable target, the wrong one. They watched a cash depot in Bromma, on the northwest side of Stockholm, while the actual operation was quietly being assembled around a building in Västberga, on the opposite side of the city. 4 million euros, 20 minutes, and the police were staked out at the wrong address. That's not a failure of effort. That's the gap between intelligence and certainty. And it's a gap that criminals, throughout history, have understood how to exploit far better than institutions like to admit. The Västberga crew didn't just plan a heist, they planned around the fact that someone might be watching. To this day, the vast majority of that money has never been recovered. The Västberga heist inspired a Netflix series, influenced a mission in Grand Theft Auto 5, and fundamentally changed how cash depots across Europe are built. Rooftops now fitted with steel cables and anti-landing infrastructure specifically because of that Bell 206. Not bad for 20 minutes of work. If you found this interesting, and if you want to go deeper into the cases that genuinely changed how the world thinks about security, crime, and the people audacious enough to test both, hit subscribe. Every episode, we take one heist, go all the way in, and come out the other side knowing something we didn't before. I'll see you in the next one.